but we got engaged. People were like, that's right, it would work out. 6 days later, it was over. So we were engaged for 6 days, but they were long days. And you know, after that, I was devastated because in order for me to stay in this relationship, that was my first love. I had been in relationships, I've had people propose, had all of that, and I was never involved. You know what I mean? Like I just really didn't care. You know what I mean? I thought we were cute, we should hang out, you know, but what happened when this was over, you know, this relationship, because now I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm in the center of Alcoholics Anonymous, I came to you broken. I started taking these steps, taking our traditions, incorporating them into my life, you know, sponsoring, showing up for commitments, doing whatever you asked me to do. And I've had prior relationships, but I get into this one, my heart is opened up. And I had no idea that in this area I was still living on an old belief system. I had no idea that in the area of intimate relationships, I was coming from a place of being broken. I was coming from a place of my past. I didn't know that. Because in other areas I had healed, but to stay in this relationship for the length of time we were together, I had to compromise my truth to make what we were doing okay. I was living in doubt, insecurity the entire time. And I remember thinking that that's what love looked like, sober. And so after sacrificing and compromising who I was to stay in this relationship, going against the advice of my sponsor, which is what I don't do, because I knew this was going to work, we had to work, so we were going to take this until the twilight, it's going to be okay. And for it to be over, I was devastated. I wanted to die. It hurt to be awake, it hurt to breathe. 6 days later, I was in another relationship. In meetings, I was talking at conferences, and it would be summer, I would have long sleeves on because I had bruises. And the women I sponsored were watching me go through this, and I started losing my babies. I started losing my sober family. My sober family is everything to me. Because I came from a background that is not unified, and Alcoholics Anonymous says I can create the fellowship I crave. I have participated in my baby's weddings, I've thrown them housewarming parties, bridal showers, baby showers. I had never done any of that prior to coming to you. I got to do all of this in Alcoholics Anonymous. Everything I had worked for, I sacrificed because I was coming from a place of being broken and I didn't know it. And I was frightened and I had lost the connection to a power greater than myself. And so, you know, in the midst of this second relationship, you know, something that I also need to share with you, when I got into the second relationship, that person was not available. They were in a relationship, which when I'm untreated is simply a technicality. and you know, let me just make haste to assure you that's not how I live today, but it's exactly how I started living again in sobriety and untreated alcoholism. Because if I'm broken and unhappy, we're all broken and unhappy. And you know, what happened is I was in a meeting, and this person was going to that meeting and had been pursuing me for most of the time I was in my relationship, wanted us to have an affair. I said, no, I'm faithful. So now that mine is over, well, you have to work this out. You know what I mean? So I came to the meeting, and I held up my ring finger, signaling the absence of the ring, okay? And I think the indication was clear. And, you know, so we get together, and it's insanity, but you know, I'm still so broken. There is nothing more painful than to lay down with someone when you are in love with someone else. And I had always lived like that. How do I fix this? By that. And so we're in bed one night, and I look over, and I said, if I drink, would you leave me? And they said, no. I said, if I drink, will you drink with me? And they said, yes. Yeah. And you know, I get that reaction, and I have people get really angry. How could you do that to another alcoholic? Let me tell you something. I am not here this morning to lie to you. You know what I mean? And I'm not here to make it pretty just because my hair looks really cute. You know? It still hurts, but it looks really cute. Take a motor. You know, but anywho, the reality is the disease of alcoholism is a distorting and a disfiguring disease. It destroys everything. It talks about it and there is a solution. Annihilation of everything. What is annihilation? Utter destruction. So I'm lying in bed and I ask, and they're willing to give up their sobriety because they are so in love with me that they think this will keep me. I'm not domestic when I drink. You know what I mean? That's all I'm going to say about that. You want to hold on to the dream, work it out. You know. And so the reality is that there was no alcohol in the house. There was no, or I would have been drunk. There comes a time when we have no effective mental defense. It has to come from a power greater than myself. I had been treating my spiritual condition. I wasn't connected to a power greater than myself. There was just no alcohol in the house. And so the next day I got a hold of my sponsor. My former sponsor, Gloria Decker, whom I love with everything in me, is very sick. She has a rare lung disease, and that's why I ended up having to change. I hadn't been able to get a hold of her. I was self-sponsored at that point, and I would say, well, what would I tell my babies if they were in the situation? I would just run it by myself. Don't try that. You know what I mean? And so, this scenario, and I know people are still offended by it, but, I think of Bill's story. I love Bill. Love Bill. Bill was just whacked out. You know what I mean? And thank God he didn't do crack. Because when I read the big book, Bill was just taking through the highs and the lows, and Bill was saved for 3 or 4 months. The goose hung high. I fared forth and high hopes. I'm like, go, Bill, go. And then he said, then the frightful day came when I drank once more. I'm like, no, Bill, no. But there's that part in the book where he's talking about his friend coming over. He used to drink with his friend. Bill sits the alcohol on the table. He's ready to get his drink on. And, you just start salivating at that point. You know what I mean? And so, Bill's friend comes in, but he's sober. Ooh, little glitch. But really, it's only a technicality when you're drinking. Because Bill says clearly, unmindful of his welfare. I get that you're sober and you're on the path, but I'm not. And I'm hoping that if I drink openly with you, you will join me. So that night, when I was in that bed with my partner without a guy, I'm miserable. I want company. And the next day when I got a hold of my sponsor, she said, Candace, why don't you start living the book and stop quoting it? She said, what you have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of your spiritual condition. I had been treating my ego, but not my spirit. I was running on devastation and broken dreams, and I had no idea what to do, and I had to make amends to that individual. I broke it off, and I think it was a month later they got drunk. I cannot make someone drink, but I'm very clear as to my part in that equation. I do not live like that anymore. I know what it's like to walk in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and have people whispering your name because of your conduct. I've lived through it. I am so very grateful to the principles of our program. I'm so very grateful that I am taught to suit up and show up no matter how I feel. I'm so very grateful for commitments because during that period, that's how I stayed with you. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be drunk. Being sober hurt. I don't believe that when people are sober a period of time and they leave Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't always think it's because they forget the pain of their last drink. I believe that the pain of living sober starts to outweigh the pain of their last drink. It is so incredibly vital that I stay in this process and that I incorporate that 10-step into my life, because what happens is my daily behaviors can accumulate like a thin film of dust. And it gets to the point where it's so thick I can't wash it off, I can't scrub it off, so I become desperate in my efforts to get free, to get clear. But there is only a spiritual solution for me. There is no middle of the road solution for this type of alcoholic.